Everyone, welcome to you all to this episode of One on One. Tonight, our topic will revolve around fear and anxiety. They are both, in fact, a normal emotion. In fact, it's when our brain is reacting when we are stressed and there's a potential danger ahead of us. Occasional anxiety is okay. However, when anxiety takes the form of disorders, then it becomes more serious. Tonight, during this episode, our guest, Nabiilah Fakira, who is a psychologist, will tell us more about the causes of anxiety and the ways to cope with it. Nabiilah, thank you so much for joining us in this episode of One on One.
Thank you, Koyal, for inviting me again.
Nabiilah, tonight we are going to talk about anxiety. It's an important topic, fear and anxiety.
Mhm.
We all feel anxious now and then whenever there is a stress at work or when we are overthinking about, a personal issue. But what is anxiety exactly about?
Actually, anxiety is a normal response reaction when we see or perceive a threat. Let's say there is a stress at work, there is stress at home, or there is a potential thing that makes us uncomfortable. So our defense mechanism or coping mechanism makes us feel a little anxious, preparing us to face whatever is happening, the threat, the danger, the situation that is unusual. So this is anxiety in itself. Okay, so we all know the feeling of a little bit uneasiness, fearful, a little bit anxious before doing something new. That's a normal reaction of anxiety. The issue is, in most cases, in certain patients, the anxiety level is way above the normal threshold. So there is an exaggeration of fear and extreme anxiety in certain situations that leads to other medical and mental consequences.
Can we say that it is a form of stress then?
Uh, Not really, because if you look at it, the normal language that we talk, we would say, yes, stress, anxiety are all related. These are the normal things that people say, layperson. But as a professional, I would say that there is a huge difference between anxiety and stress from a neurological basis, yes.
So is it anxiety or panic attack? Sometimes people use both of these terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
Could you explain the difference between anxiety and panic attack?
Actually, as mentioned, anxiety is something that is pretty normal. We all, in a phase in our life, will feel anxious. It might be doing something new, getting into a new relationship, going to a new job, buying a new car, driving. So new things will make us feel anxious because we don't know about what's waiting for us, uncertainty. And even doing something that is not in your comfort zone, you will feel at times anxious. That's normal. And it's not any disorder we are not talking about any disorder right now. We are just talking about the normal reaction. However, panic attack is something else. It is when there is an exaggeration of fear, of anxiety, that is so intense that it stimulate or secrete a lot of neurochemicals in our body, in our brain and body, that leads to a lot of physical conditions such as heart palpitation. You feel like you're suffocating, you start sweating a lot. Some people might fall unconscious after that, they might lose conscious. So these are things that we use to distinguish anxiety and panic attack. Another important difference between anxiety and panic attack is, for anxiety, we know the triggers.
Yeah.
We know what is causing us anxious, to be anxious of. We are late. We know that I'm late. This is why I'm anxious. However, panic attack, the triggers are often, or most of the time, unconscious. So someone might wake up in the middle of the night or after a small nap and start feeling like having a panic attack. So then the trigger is unconscious. You might be walking around the street and all of a sudden you feel an uneasiness, and all of a sudden you start having those, suffocation, on the edge, irritation, etc. Then you get a panic attack. So the trigger is not known here. So that is the main difference, we might say.
So from what you're saying, panic attacks are more unexpected, while
More, yeah,
anxiety, we know what's bothering us, like maybe certain life events
yeah.
can trigger
Yeah.
anxiety as well.
So, just to summarize it a bit, it's anxiety, the triggers are known and it's less intense compared to panic attack. The triggers most of the time are unknown, unconscious, and it's very intense.
There are also different types of anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So could you tell us more about them? How are they different from one another?
Actually, yes, there are different type of anxiety. So, anxiety is your reaction to the perceived threat. Now, the perceived threat can be social environment, it can be a particular food, it can be a particular situation, it could be blood, it could be anything. It depends on what you are perceiving as the threat. So then that will become the anxiety, the type of anxiety. Now, if we talk about the most common one is generalized anxiety disorder, where the person, the client, the patient might feel anxious for all given issue, most given issue. Like it's height, okay, I'm scared. It's someone speaks with a high tone, okay, that triggers me. So you don't really know. It's free floating. You know that this particular thing is making me feel anxious. You know the trigger, but it's not just one thing. It's a lot of things. Okay, there are social anxiety. Usually I find this a lot of time now, especially after the pandemic period. People were very scared, were very, that was normal reaction for us. And after that phase, people kept that defense mechanism. So then many of them developed and social anxiety. And this is you fear going in social contexts. So there are a lot of, yeah,
There's also phobia, right?
yes.
And
Phobia,
this one is actually quite difficult because how do you get rid of phobia?
so if we talk about anxiety disorder in itself, it's like an umbrella behind, underneath it, you will have a lot of subtypes, panic attack, phobia, and a lot of things. And phobia is, yes, it's an intense fear, an irrational fear sometimes about something, about a concept, a person, a situation, an object, an animal, that might lead to a lot of more intense consequences. So as we are talking, you will see that the intensity increases. If it's phobia, it's very intense. If it's OCD, you can't get rid of that cycle. So we will focus more on anxiety because there's a lot of subtypes. Yeah.
Subtypes, yes. The main symptoms we can say from what you've mentioned is excessive worry and fear, right,
Uh,
of anxiety.
Actually, I would talk about the seven main symptoms of anxiety. So a feeling of nervousness, restless, like you don't know what you don't understand what you really want at that moment. You might be watching TV and you want to go upstairs to bed. When you are about to sleep, you just want to keep on watching the movie. And you are in watching the movie, you feel hungry. And when you go to eat something, you feel nauseous. So it's restless. You don't understand what you really want. And when you go about doing something, you don't feel that, I'm satisfied, I'm calm. So there is that restlessness, nervousness inside. It's in your brain, it's in your heart, you feel it all around your body. The second is always on the edge, or you feel on the edge. What's a feeling of on the edge? It's like one more drop and I'll just snap. One more drop and I'll panic. You are on a mode of defense. If something happened, I would just panic. I would just collapse. The third one is an increase in heart rate. So even just sitting here, you feel like your heart is pumping very hard, and it increases your heart rate. Hyperventilation, like you start breathing very rapidly, and sweating, trembling.
Swelling as well.
Yeah, excessive one. We know we live in Mauritius, and here sweat is something common, but
Mhm.
excessive sweat, like something that is beyond normal threshold. Your hand starts trembling, and you feel tired most of the time, and you have difficulties to concentrate. All these symptoms mentioned are here because there is a neurochemical disbalance in the body. Those neurochemical disbalances causes a lot of symptoms like increase in heart rate, etc. So if it is less intense, you won't. If it is a mild anxiety, you won't get these symptoms intensely. But if you feel that these symptoms are really affecting you on a day-to-day basis, on a daily basis, preventing you from doing tasks that you used to do without any difficulties, then that's a sign.
So insomnia as well is a symptom of anxiety.
Insomnia is a symptom that you need to take into consideration. I won't say if you have insomnia, it is an indication that you have anxiety. Insomnia could be an indication that you're going for a depression. Insomnia could be an indication that yes, there is anxiety. Insomnia could be an indication of a lot of mental health condition and as well a lot of medical conditions. So we can't generalize
Yes.
here.
From what you're saying, the numerous symptoms of anxiety on our brain, in that sense, can it also affect our physical health?
Yeah, definitely. Because as mentioned, all these symptoms will have an impact on our body. So if you feel like tired all the time, there is a lot of chemicals being released in your body, you feel like nauseous, obviously you might feel fearful to eat, you might avoid consuming certain things which might affect your diet. And if you are constantly feeling restless, obviously neurochemicals released in your body, they are not just gonna sit there and okay, it's fine. They will have a lot of medical consequences. One of the consequences that I really explain my clients and patients when they come into my practice is if you are always anxious, you need to understand that your brain, your body goes into the anxious mode. What is an anxious mode? The flight or fight mode. It is an indication that there is a threat, and because of this threat, your body releases hormones, stress hormones, to prepare you to face this threat. So it gives you energy, courage, motivation to face this threat. So it mobilizes all the energy in your most of the energy in your body to prepare you to fight this threat. So what happened when it mobilizes the energy, it stops certain bodily functions. For example, if you won't digest your food at that moment, so it stops the digestive system. It stops a lot of systems that are not essential in that moment. So it answers the question,
Yeah.
why do people with anxiety have gastric issue, gut
Yes,
issue?
indeed. True.
Because when you are in that zone, your digestive system is not operating to 100%. It stops temporarily to give you energy to fight this threat. So now it answers the question also for people who are having anxiety attacks, panic attacks 3-5 times a day. For people who are always anxious, what is happening to their digestive system, to other bodily function? Because they are always on the fight and flight mode. So this is why I did my research, my postgrad research on the relationship between the brain and gut axis. So this is what I'm investing my time in now, because it has a lot of impact. You talk to a lot of Mauritian, they will tell you like, yeah, I have gut issues, I have gastric issues, etc. So
And it maybe it all comes down to anxiety.
yes,
This is
it
what should be treated, right?
yes, and this is my research. What is my PhD is about? My research is about the link. What is causing this? Is there any mental health condition that is resulting in physical health issues? So this is something that we need to pay attention to.
And the causes of anxiety is sometimes very unconscious, right?
Yeah.
We do not realize what's really bothering us, and it may lower our self-esteem as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of time you will have people coming to me telling me like, yeah, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling but there is no fear that is present in that present moment right now. Sometimes they bring things from the past, sometimes which will lead to post-traumatic stress disorder probably, or they would talk about things that anticipating the worst. So when people are anticipating the worst to happen, like they are fearful for their future, what happens is the threat is not here, it's a perception.
Yes.
So they are fearful of the perception rather than a real threat, I would say. So this is why it
It's really
becomes...
sad because they're living in fear then.
Yes, they are living in fear
Constantly.
because their brain is just bombarding this idea that something wrong is going to happen in the future. So what happened is their brain starts preparing for something that you don't know whether will happen or not. But the consequences in your body is real. So this is why I would strongly, this is why it's a psychological issue. Then you need to go and see a psychologist or a mental health practitioner, because then their job, our job, is to make you understand what is the real threat or is it a perceived threat, and if it is, how you can go about change it.
Great. So, what are the causes of anxiety? Do you think it is genetic? Can it be genetic?
Actually, yes, and but it's not restricted to
Of
genetics.
course.
But yes, there are some biomarkers. There are some indication that anxiety disorders, a panic attack, could be lead to your genes, but as well as epigenetic. Like you have the gene, it's not developed, and when you face certain environmental situation, these genes gets developed, so it's epigenetic. But a lot of time, what we see is people faced a lot of the environment that we live in. A lot of people are developing anxiety from that. It could be our upbringing, it could be our attachment style. So this is why psychology is such a vast topic that I come here mostly every month to talk about something, because it's huge. There is a lot of concepts. And if you want to make a proper formulation or a proper diagnosis of the matter as a psychologist, as a clinical psychologist maybe, you would have to take into consideration all the different aspects. So we can't restrict ourselves to one cause of anxiety.
And emotional abuse in relationship.
Yes.
It's also, I think, common
Mhm.
and sometimes very unconsciously that we suffer from that.
Mhm.
Can it trigger anxiety or intense fear?
Yes, usually if you have a victim of emotional abuse, etc., the first thing that you will see the client or the patient coming with us is anxious symptoms. They will feel very anxious, which might, severe anxiety we are talking about, which might have a duration of years. They keep on dragging, they keep on suffering from that, of that for years. So yes, anxiety could be due to emotional abuse. How it happened is because then the person experiencing this emotional abuse, they start viewing the environment as a threat, as a dangerous place to be, as something they don't really understand, uncertainty, threat, danger, potential abuse, etc. So then their body reacts. The body prepares them to face the environment. But if there is manipulation, the person will not be able to speak as well. So what happened is they shut down. As they shut down, the neurochemicals are here in the body preparing you. You're not using it. It gets accumulated. So this can explain a panic attack. Now, if there is manipulation and abuse, which is more covert, that is, you don't realize that the person is trying to manipulate you or abusing you emotionally. So what happened is you become on denial. Is that really happening? Your body senses it, your mind can't process it. You are in denial. Is that really happening? No, it can't be happening. So you push it.
Confused state.
Yeah, you are in a confused state. When you are in a state of confusion, your defense mechanism may kick in, repress it. Once you repress it, what happens? It gets to your unconscious mind. When it gets to your unconscious mind, you won't realize the triggers, and explains why many people have a panic attack.
It's sad because a relationship is sometimes needs to nurture you, but at times it causes mental distress like anxiety.
Yes, and this is very unfortunate. It's a sad thing, but this is why I also encourage people, like, if you want to get into a serious relationship, like, take your time. Take your time to really get to know the person. Is that person willing to understand you? There's nothing wrong in having anxiety, and you just need to have a partner that understands you and that doesn't trigger you even more. So if you already have it, someone who can understand. If you don't have it, don't find a partner that will.
But Nabila, what about shyness and withdrawal? These are, in fact, I would say, maybe part of someone's personalities, but it can also, I would say, trigger anxiety in some sort when a person is required to, address an audience.
Hmm.
So, do you think that part of our personalities as well
Mhm.
sometimes harmful to our emotional being?
I won't say part of our personality because there is a misconception about introverts or shy people who can't talk, etc. You might be a very shy person, introvert, but you are a manager, you are a director, you are a psychologist. You have to talk, you have to speak it up. So, introverts, most of the time, they might stretch in certain situation, but how do they recharge their energy? By spending time alone, recharging their energy, being with themselves. Please, is comforting to them. That doesn't mean that they can't talk or they can't have a public speaking. In the contrary, if you have a person who is shy because that person has been through bullying, criticism, abuse, this is the reason for that person's shyness and not speaking up, withdrawal, then yes, that person will have social anxiety. That person will feel fearful because that person will view audience as a threat, because that audience might judge them, might be critical towards him, or might bully or might abuse. So this is how the brain will formulate it.
And how prevalent are anxiety disorders?
Oh, it's really, it's increasing. It's on the rise because of the conditions that we are living in, on so much things that we are exposed to. So 1 in every 8 person worldwide are having anxiety. This is from the WHO, and it was in 2022. So the last, now it is also important to know that most cases are unreported. For people watching this show today, how many people find themselves in these symptoms, won't go and seek help? So many of these cases are unreported. So is it prevalent? Yes, it is.
So is there a link then between anxiety and our performance, be it in academic setting or in a professional setting?
Yes, anxiety performance, no, because it will prevent you from giving your best shot, but a little, like a teeny mini bit or amount of anxiety actually gives you a motivation, gives you the
Indeed.
energy
Yeah.
that kickstart it, which is good, which prepares you for what you have to do. So yes, some people work best under stress.
Under pressure,
Under
right?
pressure.
Yeah.
So people who are always late, that they work best under pressure, under stress. So then this works for them. But sometimes for some people, just a little bit of anxiety can just ruin their whole performance. So it really depends on a person.
When would you say that anxiety becomes harmful to our health?
I would say when you find it disturbing your day-to-day life, when you start finding it, when you start getting it recurrently, when you find yourself become imprisoned of your symptoms, you can't get out of it. So I would say if it's too much, go seek help. Talk it out to someone, talk it out to a friend, maybe not to a friend that would judge you, but at least voice it out. This is things that is making me feel stressed.
To just see how we feel, right?
Yeah, and if you find it getting worse, like, talk to a professional.
Indeed. Nabiilah, we've talked about factors affecting,
Mhm.
causing anxiety, the symptoms, but what are the ways to cope with this mental issue?
I would say awareness, because if you don't know, you can't change. Like a lot of time, I would see people coming to my sessions telling me, "I don't know what is wrong with me. I don't know why I'm having this," and they start panicking from that. So one, they have anxiety, which is severe. The second point is they are having anxiety because of the symptoms they are having. So it's like getting worse. The more they have it, the more it intensifies, and it builds on. It keeps on building. So I would say be aware that what is happening, what is anxiety. You've listened to my talk today. So what is anxiety? What are the symptoms that I need to pay attention? Is it a chronic condition? Is it, can I change it? Is it just a state? Yes, an anxious state. Can I control it by myself? Do I need medication? So the more you have answers to it, the less you will panic. Okay? And second is seek professional help. And one of the things that I would say, it's a message to you all, like take breaks. Don't keep on going, believing that you won't break.
Yeah.
It's not
It's
true.
important to cut off.
It's important to cut off. It's important to have a time where you can actually recharge so that you can give
Yes.
your best shot and prevent you from having more issues.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nabiilah, for these wise words. It was a pleasure to have you on the set tonight and discover more about the factors underlying anxiety and the ways to cope with it.
Thank you very much, Koyal. It was a pleasure. Thank
Dear
you.
viewers, we have now come to the end of this episode. Thank you for your time. We hope to catch you next week at the same time, same channel. Have a great evening.